Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Subconscious Sundays. I am one of your hosts, Reverend April Kling, and with me, as always, is the wonderful Timothy Freeman, certified
Hello.
hypnotherapist.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. And today our topic is ideals and idols. And we have a lot to say about that. We will be going into that conversation shortly, but before we do, as always, we like to go through a few of the rules and regulations of Subconscious Sundays. Really, it's just setting the tone, setting the intention, if you will. So, first of all, we aim to be a fun and laid back way to discuss potentially serious and heavy topics that affect all of our lives today.
Yes, and we remain open and inviting. We welcome you. If you have any questions or ideas to add to the conversation, please respectfully bring them to us.
It is typically a weekly ritual, although we are doing this one-off in the off season. Stay tuned for information about that. We're looking tentatively at September for our launch of season 3. And it is a place where we gather in shared community, no matter when we go live, in virtual sacred space to share our knowledge while hearing your responses. And as always, we keep the comments live. Anytime you have a question or a comment, just pop it in there. We'll try to respond to it as soon as we see it.
Yeah, and we have just a few core values here between the two of us on Subconscious Sundays. We are respectful of everyone's individual journey. Everyone's at a different place and time and everything.
Yeah, we stay rooted in compassion for self and others.
This is all about promoting growth and expansion.
And we're just here to create a supportive community. And really, everything else is secondary. So thank you for being here. And thank you for being a part of that community. So our topic, ideals and idols. I did the lunchtime poll, Tim. And I have to say, the first question I asked, I barely got any response at all. I actually just got one. So I did 2 questions this week. First one being the one that kind of only got one response. Whom do you look up to and why? And our intrepid, consistent member of the community, Bear, says, anyone who doesn't look down on anyone. Snobbery is one of the grimmer human traits, particularly in the socioeconomic status context. Ooh, that's food for thought. That gave me some things to say, and I hope I'll get to that today in the sermon portion.
That's
of
definitely
today.
a little subconscious thorn in my mind there. I don't know if thorn is right the word, but it's a subconscious thing for me.
It's a thing. It's a thing. It's worth mentioning. And then I decided, since that one wasn't just getting a lot of response, aside from Bear, thank you very much, Bear. I asked a second question, sort of like a sub question. When someone you admire let you down, how did or how do you respond? Aaron says, I don't, which is totally within his rights. You don't necessarily have to respond. Somebody let you down, you're totally within your rights to just not respond at all. Cheyenne says you cannot put your expectations on others. You can also let them know how it made you feel and then move forward, which is good conflict resolution. Honestly, I told Cheyenne that's a very wise answer. And then we got a 2-parter from Elaine. She says, I admire very few people. When someone lets me down, first I deal with myself. I feel my feelings. I acknowledge anger, see if I can accept and forgive the person for being human. If necessary, I say something to the person. And then she says, in a kind of the second part of her answer, no one belongs on a pedestal. Elaine knows what's up. Elaine is also a wise woman. And then Cruz brings up something that I hoped would come up, which is what happens when a public figure you admire lets you down. You have no way of knowing the actual details or truth of the situation. I've had several instances of this over the last several years. And he goes on to cite Neil Gaiman, who was a very elevated figure in the world of fiction and comics, and even Marvel, I think, had a Neil Gaiman series on Netflix at one point. And so, yeah, I mean, there's these people, and even his partner, whose name escapes me at the moment. She's a very famous accordion, rock, rock accordion player. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with the guy. Yeah.
It's his wife. She also was very much part of Apple scandal and stuff like that. Lots of people really look up to her and like her. And I play accordion, so people are always like, "Oh, like so and so." I don't really know, but and so both of them kind of fell from grace and all of that. And I don't know. To me, it's one example out of many we could pull from too. Like there's just so many instances of people that we very much look up to who let us down. Just try to- But I didn't specify that either. I didn't specify like famous people, and I didn't specify like people in our lives. I was kind of hoping for all of it. And then patients had a pretty lovely response by praying for them. We are all human and fall short of the glory of God. We have all let someone down intentionally or unintentionally. I pray someone else has this grace with me. And that's kind of what we're going to get at today. But we have a ways to go before we get there. So let's dig in. Talking about our ideals and idols. I want to talk essentially today about three things. I want to talk about projection. I want to talk about pedestals, and I want to talk about mirrors. And it doesn't have anything to do with furniture or appliances. But these are helpful metaphors for us to understand these appliances and fixtures in our home are helpful metaphors for us to understand these concepts. And what I'm going to say today is probably not going to be anything groundbreaking. It's to me very basic. To Tim, it's something that we talk about a lot off the show about our own lives and the way that we process things. If this is new information, though, that's why I'm taking the chance of sharing it today. It is either going to be a reminder of the most basic stuff that you already know, or it could be, if it's something that you don't already know, an introduction to something very basic around the idea of subconsciousness versus consciousness when it comes to interpersonal dynamics. And it really helps us understand the core essence of like conflict resolution and peace building as well, which is something we dearly need in the world, as I'm constantly saying. So the first thing I do want to talk about, though, is the concept of projection. So I think this concept is becoming more of a pop culture normal thing to talk about. I think when that happens, that tends to get muddied. The meaning of projection kind of gets muddied. Projections are not accusations. That's kind of how I see that term being bandied about on the internet in reference to pop psychology. But projections are not accusations. Projections are not simply or like lying about something that somebody did or said, which is, it's just so not. What projections are actually is having an idea, a whole concept of somebody in our minds that may or may not match up with who that somebody is and their identity and what they're trying to present in the world. So we fill in the gaps. And this happens a lot in the cases of like falling in love with somebody and becoming really infatuated. But it also happens when we idealize and idolize people in the world. We have this picture of who this person is, this full story that we tell ourselves about who that person is, what they're about. And sometimes we have this picture that is incomplete and we fill it in with our need for pattern recognition, and the world needs to fill it in with all of the ideals that we see in that person. If someone, for instance, is really talented at being a singer, and when you see interviews with them, they seem like a really nice, kind person, and you hear that they're really terrible to wait staff or something, it really doesn't match up with the picture in your mind of this person just being so calm and so cool and so collected and so great to be around, like you see in the story you tell yourself from your mind or the very carefully curated media imagery of this person. So even actors and actresses, like the roles that they take in different movies and TV shows, and even the stuff that we see online with TikTok and Instagram reels, the way people present themselves in those things, even the way that Tim and I present ourselves in our social media context, we're really making idols of ourselves. And I want to go back and say something that, and kind of drive that point home and give credit where credit's due. That concept came to me through Katie, O'Mahony, the shaman woman that I see here in Ireland, who is fantastic. She is an excellent space holder. And one thing that she told us about this idea in social media is that we're constantly creating idols of ourselves to present to the world and allowing ourselves to be idolized, because all that people see that we put on social media is only what they see on social media. And they're required then through pattern recognition to like fill in the blanks for this life that we constantly lead. So if you're like me and you kind of take the tack of, I don't put negative stuff on social media, I only put positive stuff on social media, I only put stuff about my, my business on social media, and I just want to keep that very, positive, on the up and up, love and light, all that stuff. If you only do that on social media, then people are going to think that about you. People are going to think that that's all you're about. And when they meet you, they might actually be disappointed in the fact that you're not all love and light, or they may find it refreshing. You just never know. But people create this whole entire story of themselves, of what they want to see in you. And that truly is projection. And it's something that we do even in our most intimate and familial relationships. We create this entire puzzle around somebody, and we force fit all the different pieces that match up with the pattern recognition that we need to see from that person in order to get our needs met, whatever needs we perceive that person to be meeting. And if we elevate that person's status above our own, that is putting them on a pedestal. And when they get into a situation where they negate or falsify anything that we have projected upon them, the stories that we're telling ourselves about them turn out not to be true, that causes us sometimes to just knock somebody off of their pedestal. If we think somebody is better than us, or that we think that we're in some way unworthy of that person, that can be a really, really devastating situation where we idolize that person and we put them on that pedestal. They serve this need for us as an example of who we desire to be and who we're trying to grow into. And if they disappoint us, it becomes, if we're projecting on them, it becomes this self-reflective thing that makes us feel really, really fooled and tricked, and it can make us feel really horrible about ourselves. And when I say the word reflect, I think it's more positive. Like, if we're going to move into the more positive dynamics of this, is there's two kind of ways to go about this. It's to recognize that people like this, the people that we recognize positive aspects of in our culture, are really just reflecting back to us what we believe ourselves to be, and not really needing this. We don't really need to put somebody at a higher pedestal than ourselves in order to reflect back to ourselves and realize that we need to live up to our own potential, not the potential of somebody else. And going back to what Bear said about snobbery, I think that snobbery is almost a pedestal of itself when we put it in a socioeconomic context. There's kind of this dynamic of putting somebody on a lower level than ourselves, like maybe a lesser pedestal. And it's creating this whole story around them. And it's really no different than like any other kind of projection. And it's really kind of like a reverse pedestal. And it's almost like an idolization of somebody in a negative way. We
To
look
devalue is devaluation.
Right. And that is the beginning of the dehumanization process, which gets completely in the way of any kind of constructive conflict resolution, and gets in the way of any type of community building that we need in order to create peace in our lives. I define peace as the ability to completely meet and fulfill our own needs and the needs of those who depend on us, and nothing gets in the way of our potential. It's a very Johann Galtung definition, right?
I love that definition of
Yeah,
peace.
yeah. It's really the best one we've got. There's holes you can poke in it, but it's the best working theory. And
It's a
so,
subconscious definition of peace.
yes,
We're
absolutely. Yes. And it's not the absence of any kind of violence or conflict. It's just the ability to get our needs met, right? And we look at, because I kind of feel like violence is a constant, really, because it's the violence could be defined in that same context as like the inability to get your needs met or the inability to reach your own potential. So a lot of things can be defined as violence. But going back to the whole idea of the mirror, if we stop treating other people as somebody we could project something onto and fill in the blanks with our own stories and the things that we want to tell ourselves about those people, and completely remove our need to project anything onto them, we can see the ideals that we see in other people, like bravery, talent, skill, determination, hope, faith, the ability to like regulate one's own or even co-relate regulate one's emotions. We can start to see those as the mandate of what we need to create for ourselves, that we cultivate within ourselves rather than outsourcing somebody else to do that for us. And I think that's a problem we've gotten into society. We outsource all of these ideals to people that appear to have more power than us, appear to have more wealth than us, appear to have more influence than us, and appear to have influence and power and wealth looming over us, i.e., politicians and people in power. And if we remove them of that power, we have that within our own agency to decide for ourselves, to cultivate these ideals within ourselves. And then I kind of want to, I hate the idea of reading things off. It's not really my style, but I wrote something earlier today and I wanted to just speak it verbatim into the space, because I feel like if I try to just go back and remember what I said, then I'm not going to cover it all. So forgive me for reading this aloud, but I said, we don't have to find something negative. This will be my final thought, by the way. We don't have to find something negative about someone we idealize in order to see them clearly. In fact, sometimes often all we need to do is to admit to ourselves that we know very little or nothing about them, aside from the qualities that we admire about them. So to admit that we know nothing about someone that we feel so strongly about is a tremendous challenge. I will acknowledge that. However, it is often necessary to admit that we are so very limited in our capabilities of understanding one another. In fact, we are quite limited in the understanding of what we have in ourselves, the only people we can be accountable for. And if we're only accountable for ourselves, we must make that commitment. We must uphold what we admire and others within ourselves, and recognize that they were merely there to mirror those qualities within ourselves. And remember, accountability is a big part of this. We can't outsource that. We can't decide that somebody else has that power over us. Accountability starts here and here alone.
Yeah, really good point on that. And I really liked how you're kind of one of your main points is that we fill in the blanks about. I think that that's what certainly, we've kind of got these aspects of our consciousness, right? We've got our conscious thinking mind and we've got our subconscious mind that is really paying attention to a lot more in our world. So I think the ways we fill in the blanks, it's both conscious and subconscious. I think you're really pointing out a lot of the conscious ways and that's what kind of the idealization or the idolization is. I think there's a conscious mind aspect of it, the things we think, the story we imprint on the people, the things we think they ought to be doing for us. But a lot of that's also subconscious and informed by past experiences and what we've learned to expect from other people and what we've learned to expect from the world. But there's an interesting aspect to that analogy here with projection, and even just kind of like a literal, just kind of an interesting symbolic thing with film. It's running in slides 24 times a second or whatever it is, right? And we literally have to extrapolate. We literally have to connect the dots on a micro scale between those still images, and our brain sort of creates this illusion of a moving image, right? And that's what we get with other people too, with projection in a way, except the gaps are much bigger.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We're filling in a lot more gaps on that.
I feel
Is
like
it?
the action itself, from what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that the action of filling in these blanks and creating the stories we tell ourselves, to quote Brene Brown, about what other people are doing or behaving or the way that they live. The action of doing that is conscious, but the pattern of constantly doing that is the subconscious part.
Yeah, right. And the content of the stories is a lot subconscious as well.
Mhm.
And that's where I think people get tripped up because we idolize, we make idols of ourselves. We idealize certain states or certain ways of being for ourselves, and these create these standards that we want to live up to.
Yeah.
So this is a self-directed thing too, where some of the gaps that we fill in about ourselves with our conscious thinking mind, we do that too.
Hmm.
And so I think you and I both we're in the business of helping people create a stronger connection and a more coherence in our consciousness between our conscious thinking mind and our subconscious. And some of this stuff is just not crystal clear to our conscious mind,
Right.
right?
Well, we have a good old bear. Hello there. Has is it a snake or a rope? That old chestnut regarding pattern recognition. And I think if we apply that pretty excellent metaphor here, it's like we can decide something is a snake and be afraid of it when it's actually a rope.
Hmm.
We could assume something's a rope when it's actually a snake and it could bite us.
Or
Or we
someone we
think that we don't
idolize,
know.
yeah, or someone we idolize can tell us that rope is a snake, and we will believe it's a snake because we
Hmm.
idolize them.
Ooh, juicy, juicy, juicy.
I'm not. That's not political commentary.
Or we can convince ourselves that somebody in politics or somebody with we perceive to have power over us and greater agency than us, we can perceive that they're a rope when they're actually a snake.
Right.
I think it's really hard to commit to seeing people at face value. I think it's really hard because that is going against our very Western going up against our very Western mentality of treating intelligence and knowledge as like pedestalized traits and
Hmm.
ideals. And if we admit that we don't know something, it's almost like a sin. It's almost like we're sinning against our ideals. So what the mandate is and what the challenge is, I'm literally telling you to like go against your programming. I'm telling myself to go against my own programming when I'm saying anytime I'm saying we should be more forthright with the fact that we know so little and we know hardly at all. And that goes against so much cultural subconscious programming around like, oh no, I'm supposed to know. I'm supposed to know everything. I'm supposed to be knowledgeable. I'm supposed to be smart. I'm supposed to, know what's up.
Well, and something we talk about a lot. You actually answered a question I had for you there too, April. A question I had is, in your view, like how do we see people, or how do we see situations or people with a little bit more objective reality outside of our stories and our projections? And I think you just answered it in a way by kind of keeping this almost beginner's mind, like or that we don't know, imprinting that for ourselves might help when we lean into projections and assumptions, right?
Right.
Like,
And I'm glad you asked that question because I guess I do kind of have more
mhm,
to answer, more to say and to answer and respond to that question. That is treating people with curiosity, treating people with gentleness and curiosity and a suspension of belief or disbelief, whatever serves the purpose of the moment. Really treating people with that level of curiosity and assuming, I hate to say assuming the best because that again gets us into that pattern of filling in the blanks, but
mhm.
but admitting, really it's about admitting to ourselves that we just don't know, and the best way to get around not knowing is to ask questions and to be more curious and to treat that curiosity first and foremost with love and compassion. If we treat that curiosity with belligerence and anger, then we're probably not going to get the results we want right away, or long term for that matter. But we might get the satisfaction of expressing our anger. We might get the satisfaction of discharging those emotions. But when we treat these situations with compassion and curiosity, we get the information filled in for us as best as we possibly can receive it.
Yeah, that's really, and so this, be curious, have that attitude of curiosity. And that's extremely helpful both with other people and with ourselves in this equation too, when we're trying to evaluate, like we might have a thought, like a reaction, a thought or a feeling reaction to something, and that emotion that comes up, like you said, like, we might need to express that in the situation, but really like the curiosity around, well, what is that emotion? What unmet need is that emotion signaling?
Right.
Is a way of like engaging that curiosity for ourselves on a subconscious level. And I think the one point I wanted to make here is this idea of like, oh, just be curious, and these sort of little pop culture, pop psych anecdotes, right, that are kind of tossed around. It's like curious. And I think the point for me is this stuff requires cultivation.
Yeah.
Because
And practice.
if you're projecting something and it's keyed up a thought and it's keyed up a feeling, and then we're kind of in this loop, it's always a little bit more difficult to detangle than if we were kind of more curious and open from the get-go.
Right.
But that takes cultivation. You have to practice that, because our natural tendency is to just kind of roll with what's unfolding in our head.
The story we're telling ourselves. And with that, I'd like to turn it straight on over to you to get into that practice portion of things. I know that you've prepared a beautiful meditation for us today, the meditative hypnosis, I'm calling it today. When I did the captions for today, I put that in there realizing that I've switched it. It used to be hypnotic meditation.
I like to call it a hypnotic meditation, because this is really, and I'll tell you why. There's overlap. Same difference here, but there's a lot of overlap between meditation and hypnosis. There's a lot of overlap. So this is more of a meditation. That's kind of why I call it a hypnotic meditation, because while I am using hypnotic techniques and some hypnotic language in this experience with you guys, it is a little bit more of a guided meditation. So it differs from the one-on-one hypnotherapy that you would experience if you're seeing me as a client, for instance. So you could regard this as a little taster of what hypnosis might be, but just know that hypnotherapy, if you're working with a hypnotist, it's a different experience than what we're going to have here. So if you'd like to join me for this hypnotic meditation, just settle into a comfortable seated position. This is if you're a meditator, grab your mat, grab your cushion, get comfortable and settle in. If you're not a meditator, don't fuss. Sit comfortably, feet flat on the floor. Uncross legs. You might want to take off your glasses. Get into a position where you can just relax very comfortably for a few minutes. And this will be fairly brief one today. And the idea here, if you're just joining us, this hypnotic meditation is a way for us to turn down our conscious thinking mind that thinks it can solve all the problems and thinks it knows all the things and thinks it's filled in all the blanks. And we're able to tune into more of the signals from our subconscious mind. So as you're settling in, just take a couple of breaths and arrive in your body. Let your consciousness be here in your body. And if you've still got your eyes open, if you've got your eyes closed, go ahead and open your eyes and find a spot on the wall or the ceiling just above your natural eye gaze. So your eyes are upturned, and it's a little bit of a strain to look up like that. Take a deep breath in, and as you do, focus in on a single spot, just a really single spot, and look at every little detail. And as you exhale, look through that spot with a relaxed gaze, and you might notice the corners of the room. Your peripheral vision comes online, and when you're ready, close your eyes. Just the act of closing your eyes helps your brain to cut out a lot of external stimuli, helps you go into a more predominant alpha brainwave state, which is where we want to be in meditation and hypnosis, maybe even a little slower. And relax your jaw. And as you do, that sends a signal to every muscle, nerve, and cell in your body that now is the time to relax. There is no one for you to be right now, nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just this moment, focusing in on the sound of my voice. Relaxing your jaw, dropping your shoulders, and just get into a slow, comfortable rate of breathing. Nothing forced. Effortless breathing. We're not engaging in any breath work right now, but the intention here will be to draw out your exhalation. A long, slow, not forced exhalation. Good. Now relax the back of your tongue. See how relaxed you can get this part of your body. And all we're doing here is decoupling your tongue from the part of your brain preparing to speak. We're often preparing to reply, react, respond. And the only response here now, the only thing you care about now is just how relaxed you can get, how comfortable you can be. Focusing in on the sound of my voice now. And drop your consciousness into your heart, whatever that means for you. We often think about our consciousness being behind our eyes. Just focus on the seat of your consciousness in your heart. Good. And take your attention to the surface beneath you now. Tune in to just the feeling of the chair or the surface beneath you pushing up into your back. The felt sense of gravity gently holding you, evenly, dependably. And as you take in a deep breath, send your awareness down into the earth. Allow your awareness to explore going down through the layers of the earth, deeper and deeper, all the way down to the very center of the earth. So your consciousness is connecting directly with the very center of the earth. And as you take in another deep breath, just bring in some of that stable, supportive energy of the earth. Bring it back up through the layers into your body, becoming now aware of a sense of spaciousness all around you. And with your next slow, relaxed, effortless breath in, bring your awareness up, all the way up and out through the atmosphere, out to the very center of the universe. whatever that means for you. Allowing an aspect of your consciousness to be right here and connected to the very center of the universe, the realm of inspiration. You might have the beliefs that they're allies or guides, and call them in now if you hold those beliefs. And with your next breath in, draw some of that energy of inspiration down into your body, and let this stable, supportive energy of the earth, still connected to the core of the earth, let it intermingle with this energy of inspiration from the very center of the universe. And this balance point is in your heart. So bring your attention right back to the area around your heart. And with the magic of your mind, go one level deeper within. Just one level deeper into the core of your being. And as you take in another deep breath, go even one more level deeper into the core of your being. And you get just still enough to start to feel that sense of spaciousness all around you once again. And you might not know where your body ends and the rest of the world begins. Floating, peaceful. Your awareness going deeper into the very core of your being. And as you arrive even more fully, I want you to become aware that there is a quiet power, there's a presence in the very core of your being. Let's just call this the wisest part of your consciousness, at the very center. Still, calm. And allow it to emanate like sunlight out from the very core of your being. Warm sunlight emanating outward, starting to reach every aspect of your being, to light up all the dark corners, every little nook and cranny getting infused with those warm, golden sunlight that's emanating from the very core of your being. And as that sunlight is warming every part of you, a sort of ideal scenario arrives in your mind. Just let it appear. Let it unfold. An ideal scenario in your life. You're living within an ideal scenario. What does it look like? What do you notice? Are you alone or with someone? And who's there? What are you thinking? And what are you feeling in this very moment? Tune into that feeling while you're enmeshed in this ideal scenario. That feeling that you have points directly to a value that you hold dear in your life. What is that value? Whatever's coming up right now is exactly right. Focus in on that feeling that you're having and that value that it points to. And this is an ideal scenario, but bringing your attention right back into your body, here and now, just consider one way to embody that value today. See yourself again in the ideal scenario. What are you thinking? That feeling that you're having there. And we're going to draw it right back into your body here and now. And with your mind, consider that value. And one way you can embody that value in your life today, outside of an imagined ideal scenario. Good. And draw your attention right back into the core of your being. That calm, still space. You notice that sunlight emanating out from the center of your being. You might even feel warmth. Focus in on the quality of that sunlight as it's emanating out, and let it fill up your entire body. And as you do, someone comes to mind, a person who you idolize, a hero perhaps. Someone who you might put up on a pedestal. And you notice them. You notice their face. And you start to notice very faintly across their face, a projection screen starts to come into focus, projecting right on top of their face. The movie projecting on their face, what's happening there? Let that scene fade away, but focus in on the face of this person. And they make an interesting expression now. A curious expression that almost might surprise you. What's behind that expression? And acknowledge now that you're filling in a blank on that. You don't know what's inside. You might have a good idea, but it is a projection. What qualities about this person do you admire the most? One primary quality you admire the most. Maybe there's a few. There's a primary quality here. And you can see it in their face. And I want you to take a deep breath in. And as you do, draw that quality into your own self. Allow yourself to draw that quality that you admire in that other person. And you notice it's already there. This is allowing it to grow within you as that sunlight emanates out from the center of your being. It's infused with a quality that you admire in the other person, that you find within yourself too. So just take a moment to focus in on that warm sunlight. It's now imbued with a little bit of a different feeling. Breathe in and exhale very slowly, taking your attention again to a sense of spaciousness all around you, allowing those sunbeams to project outward. Warm, golden sunlight. And take your attention again to the surface beneath you. the feeling of the chair pushing up into your back, the surface under you, holding you reliably. And I'm going to count to 3. And on 3, but not before, you'll emerge from this hypnotic meditation feeling a renewed sense of value in your own life. 1, taking your attention to that value we examined. How can you embody it today? 2, taking your attention to that feeling of sunlight once again that's imbued with the quality you saw in another that you now recognize in yourself, shining out into the world. And 3, wiggling your fingers and wiggling your toes, opening your eyes, and right back here with us on Subconscious Sundays. Thanks for joining me for this hypnotic meditation.
Thank you so much, Tim. Beautiful, brilliant. You could probably see me in the little studio screen. I didn't turn my camera off for you. But yeah, I really enjoyed that meditation. And I'll be honest,
Hope everybody did too.
The quality that I saw in somebody else was wisdom. Mm-hmm. And it's cool that I got this opportunity to see myself radiating that out to other people in the same way that this person that I idealize, maybe even idolize, does. And I don't know, that just made me feel really good. And I hope, and I trust that it did for other people who participated in it today. Thank you all for joining us. We're so glad you were able to for this one-off solstice episode. I love how you incorporated the sunshine too for the solstice. That was cool.
Yeah, happy solstice to everybody.
Happy solstice, everybody. And happy birthday, Tim. That's just a few days away for you.
That's right.
That's why we couldn't do it next weekend. So everybody stay tuned for announcements on season 3. We will put that out very soon. Tim and I have every intention of getting back into it. I have to finish my dissertation for my master's degree in international peace studies, which will be due in mid-August. And once that's complete and I get a little bit of a breather after that, we'll get right to it. We'll get right back to it. But in the meantime, Tim and I are each available to discuss what your needs are and what your options are. At the moment, I'm not taking new clients. I'm at capacity, but you can go ahead and set up an appointment for September with me. And Tim, you and I each have our link down below, and Tim is offering a free session as well. Tell them about that.
Oh, it's a consultation. Lasts about 45 minutes. If you're curious about hypnosis and hypnotherapy and how, if you feel like you've got something in your subconscious mind that, really, hypnosis is kind of for everyday problems. So really, it can serve a lot of functions here. But if you're curious about hypnosis, schedule a consultation. We can talk about how it can help you. I have one more announcement too. On Wednesdays, starting in July, I will be hosting a weekly hypnotic meditation on Wednesdays at noon Pacific. So email me at freedom@higherstatehypnosis.com if you're interested. I'll send you the details. Be kind of low-key, casual, kind of like this, a little bit longer though, about 20-30 minutes on Wednesdays at noon Pacific.
Okay, cool. I'm putting that on there now to email him. Let's see, freedom@higherstatehypnosis.com.
Thank you.
Get that, to get the invitation to meet with Tim on Wednesdays on the weekly basis starting in July. That's so exciting. And see, I didn't know that before. So that's cool too. I'm learning about it for the first time with all of you. So that's really neat. Hopefully I can get to dial in as well. That'll be really nice. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. And my scheduler is still open for my sessions, free 1-hour Q&A to discuss your needs and to discuss what it is that I can help you with through spiritual guidance. It's more of a conversational style type of therapy. So there is also the option of working with the two of us in tandem, which has been done before successfully. So we can put together a package for you where each of us are assisting you from our two different angles, hypnosis and spiritual guidance. This is ideal for you if you want to deal with things on a more conscious level with me and a more subconscious level with Tim. While there will be elements of consciousness and subconsciousness with both of us, that will be kind of the tandem focus for the work with the both of us. But again, I am only open to new clients starting in September, but you can go ahead and set that appointment now. Our links to do all of these different sessions are available to you in the description of every video that we do and every event that we put on. So all you need to do is go into the description and click on either link, maybe even copy paste it if it's not hyperlinked, and it'll get you right to the scheduling page. And we really do hope to hear from you anytime. And we'll see you again this autumn. In the meantime, enjoy the summer.
Looking forward to it. Take care.